Good morning, ladies. It's Lourie, and I'm here with my dear friend and naturopathic colleague, Dr. Doni Wilson. And I want to start out by just doing this.
Yay!
Everyone needs to get this book. It is this, first of all, it's very hard to explain medicine in terms that normal people, non-medical people can understand. And Dr. Doni did that 100%. Second of all, her system of helping women heal is unbelievable. It's so well thought out. It's doable for everyone. So welcome, Dr. Doni, and thank you for spending time with us today. And tell the audience a little bit about who you are and how you arrived to write this fantastic asset in women's lives.
Oh my gosh, it is such an honor to have you say that, Carol, because I know you as a naturopathic doctor and doing the work, you and I have been working in parallel all these years helping patients, and to be able to have you read the book and be like, wow, this is such a resource, really is so validating for me. So thank you. And I'm so glad to have it available to people, because I've just seen how this information is needed, and it's not understood by most practitioners, right? It definitely doesn't happen in conventional care, and many even holistic or functional practitioners never learn really how to address stress, how to really truly understand how to help our adrenal glands and the rest of our bodies recover from stress. So anyway, a little bit about my story. You asked me, right? I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in kind of the Seattle, Portland area. My father is a pharmacist, so I joke that I grew up in a pharmacy, but it's really true. I was always,
yeah.
I spent more time in the pharmacy than anywhere else. And from that experience, what I took from it actually was that my father was always teaching me to, as much as we could, prevent the need for medication. So it was always what dietary choices. Yeah, right. He understood the need for medications. So, but we also would say, hey, what diet changes, what lifestyle, what could you do? What vitamins could you take to prevent health issues? And so when I went to college, I went to Oregon State University. I was doing a pre-med degree, and I found myself, I was training to either go to pharmacy school or medical school. And I ended up deciding to get also a degree in nutrition. And then I really found myself thinking, well, I want to study a medicine that involves using nutrition to prevent health issues. And that's when a friend told me about naturopathic medical school, and it made
National College of Naturopathic Medicine.
It made so much sense to me. So I was like, this is like, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, this actually exists. This is amazing. And so it was quite a shock to my parents, because still they thought, oh, she's going to go, they thought I was going to go to pharmacy school. But I'm so glad that I had that realization at a young age, and to be able to, subsequently go down this path of doing what I'm passionate about, is helping people with their health, helping people understand their bodies, understanding that we have so much power in prevention, using resources we have all around us from nature, from food and spending time in nature, and herbs and nutrients. And there's so much we can do to support our bodies to heal. So that's a little bit about me. I also, after finishing, I also have a degree as a midwife. So I
saw that.
I was so interested in understanding how stress affects women in labor. And so I researched that in my midwifery training, and I subsequently moved to Manhattan right after 9/11. And so it was a very stressful time in New York. And I decided, hey, what I learned from women in labor, maybe I can apply that to other humans going through stress. And sure enough, I just right away started implementing my approach to stress to help New Yorkers and those, people who were living in this area to recover from 9/11. And so that kind of started me on this path of really researching and implementing more about stress recovery. But I also had migraines myself. I had migraines for over 25 years. So in the background, I was always trying to solve my migraines. And that also really pushed me to say, hey, there's got to be a solution. Yes, I know I can take a pill. Yes, I know I can, take away the pain, but the pills didn't work very well for me and they caused side effects. And I was
They
like,
have horrible side effects. It's like, how much do I want to suffer from this pill afterwards, right?
so I just stayed after it. And so now I don't get migraines anymore, but it was
What did you discover about your migraines? I'm just curious.
Well, it was multiple things. And I think this is true for a lot of health related issues, and including, including cancer. It's usually not just one thing, right? It's like, it's so multifactorial. So I needed to change my diet and figure out which foods were triggering, which foods were inflammatory. I needed to balance my blood sugar levels. I needed to avoid gluten and dairy and some other food sensitivities. I needed to heal leaky gut and balance my gut bacteria, right? So I had to literally go through every step. I also had to rebalance my cortisol levels, adrenaline, and neurotransmitters. And then I figured out that I was sleeping on a flame retardant memory foam mattress and had to get
that's
a mat.
dangerous.
Those things are so scary.
Yes.
I'm like, what was I doing to myself for, I don't know. I think I was only sleeping on it for 5 years or so, but still I was like, whoa, this is terrible. And I also figured out for myself that I really needed, like right now I'm at a standing desk. Like for my body, I need to be standing more than sitting. And for many years when I would meet with patients, I would be sitting. And when I'm in a sitting posture, it really would tighten all my muscles and trigger these headaches. So
that's a beautiful story of how you went through, you use the beauty of what we do one by one to figure out every little contributing factor of, for you, it was migraines. For my community, it's women with breast cancer. I mean, we need to be systematic and take our time and realize, it's not just this one vitamin, it's a whole protocol and it's a whole lifestyle. That's so beautiful. Good for you.
Yeah, and thank you. And that's when I always feel like whatever I can learn through my experience, I want to share with others, because then it can help them. To know that you just sometimes it's frustrating as it can be and as scary as it can be, if we could just stay after it, keep knowing that our bodies can heal, and that we just need to keep finding what works for us. And what I also saw with working with thousands of patients with various health issues, including breast cancer over the years, is that we're so unique as individuals, and we need to take that into account. We're not all going to need the same, what works for me may not work for another person. We have to be willing to say, hey, what is it for your body? What are the stresses on your body? My body, it was the mattress toxins and the postural stress and the inflammatory foods that are a stress and so on. But for other people, it could be completely different. And so we need to understand our individuality, including when it comes to how we respond to stress. Like a lot of times when people think about stress, we assume that we all have the same. Like we all assume, we all have high cortisol, for example. That's the most common thing people say to me. I probably have high cortisol.
If most people know what high cortisol is, let's back up a little bit, because I think we're assuming that people know about high cortisol, and you explain that so well in the beginning of your book. But let's talk about what is high cortisol. A lot of people have never even heard that word, or they don't know what it means.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we have a built-in stress response system as humans, and part of that stress response system is going to trigger what we think of as fight or flight, this sympathetic nervous system, and that sends out adrenaline, which is what you might feel when you're stressed, like heart racing and sweating and mind racing, like your body's getting you ready to protect you from the stress. And then what the body does is it signals to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are above the kidneys, and they make a bunch of different hormones, but the one we're mentioning here in particular, which I think is a super key hormone to know about and understand and optimize, is cortisol. And cortisol is the reason it's so important is, yes, it responds when we have a stress response, but we also need cortisol on a day-to-day basis. We want it to go up in the morning to wake us up and give us energy. And it's the only hormone that gradually decreases over the day. So it doesn't just stay at the same amount all the time. It starts out high in the morning or goes up in the morning, and then it gradually decreases through the day so that it's lowest when you're going to bed. And it's signaling throughout your body. So it's signaling to your digestion. It's signaling to all your other hormones like thyroid and insulin and estrogen and progesterone, all of them. It's also signaling to the nervous system. So if you're thinking of, say, serotonin and dopamine related to mood and focus, and it also signals to the immune system, how well our immune system protects us from infections, as well as how well our immune system protects us from cancer and autoimmunity. And so if this cortisol is not at an optimal level through the day, it's scrambling the signals everywhere. It's scrambling signals to the digestion, scrambling signals to the immune system, right? So it's like now everything is scrambled and in a stress state. But imagine if we can help get your cortisol levels back to optimal again. Now we're sending optimal signals out everywhere, and it's going to be so stabilizing for your health and your overall, just well-being.
That's a beautiful description that everybody can, I think, understand and appreciate, and really, really get that cortisol has the ability to be protective as well as damaging. Mm-hmm. So here we have somebody who comes in. I see this a lot. I think mm-hmm. that from the moment women are diagnosed with breast cancer and then they go through treatment, it's an elevated cortisol response. It's not a relaxed moment.
Right.
You have to build yourself up to get through this breast cancer treatment experience, and then treatment is over. And then mm-hmm. I see this very often. All of a sudden, quote unquote, the woman collapses. Mm-hmm. So she had gung-ho energy to get through treatment, and about a month to 2 months after treatment, she can't get out of bed. She's quote unquote depressed. The doctor wants to put her on antidepressants. The family and her workplace, if she's working outside of the home, feel like, okay, well, you got through it. Now everything's fine. You should just be fine and get back to work and be back to your normal self. But mm-hmm. we know that she's in a reduced imbalanced state with her cortisol, and it's the impact of all that keeping it together for treatment. So where do we start? How do you recommend women start? And this is a good time for you to talk about your C.A.R.E. Very good acronym, everyone.
Love that one, right? And I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I see that too. Going through cancer treatment is incredibly stressful and depleting. And so you end up finding yourself at the end of it, now the cancer treatment's done, but now you're completely burned out and wiped out. And you're like, now what do I do? And it becomes, of course, what you're doing is helping people to do all this prevention. And I would say a key piece of that prevention is definitely, let's help your body recover, because it's definitely possible to recover from all that stress. I want to give you hope for that, because sometimes you can be like, oh my gosh, I went through this. Is it ever going to get better? Yes, it can get better. Your body can heal. But it is important to go through it in a systematic way. That's what I find. It's tempting, right? It's tempting to just dive in and try to fix things quickly, or use a kind of a cookie cutter approach.
Throw the kitchen sink. This is what I see women come in. They did mm-hmm. research. They're taking 15 products and they are all over the place and they're overwhelmed and they don't know what the protocol is. It's the throw the kitchen sink syndrome, which is what I find.
That's a great way to describe it. Absolutely. Because and I love that you're wanting to feel better and you're trying, but just know that you're going to be more efficient and effective if we acknowledge what your body, where you're starting from, and what does your body need in a sequential fashion, you're going to be much more efficient and effective at recovering. And I want that for you. I want you to get there efficiently instead of feeling like you're just swallowing a million pills and nothing's ever getting better. That definitely, that doesn't sound worthwhile. So what I would say, and I definitely want to talk about CARE, the CARE acronym, because CARE to me is the foundation of all healing. And I know you, Carol, have also your foundation. This kind of overlaps, I think, with your the way you describe these foundational activities. So CARE stands for clean eating. So looking at your diet, and again, individualizing it. I mean, there's some of it that we can all use, like minimizing and decreasing and avoiding sugar as much as possible, and avoiding processed foods and pesticides, right? You can remove the things that sometimes are in food, and we don't need them. They're just more stress for our bodies. So really focusing on how to clean up your diet and find the foods that are the safest and healthiest for you, and even the eating intervals that are best for you, the meal sizes and the timing, and even potentially, the fasting overnight that's going to work best for your body.
Yeah, intermittent fasting, I think, is a very important component of a whole healthy protocol, especially for women with cancer. And in American society, I mean, we're trained, you wake up, you have to eat breakfast, and you have dinner, and then you have a snack before you go to bed. So I think it takes a while. I mean, the first thing I do is recommend that we stop eating after dinner.
Yes.
And so if you stop eating at 7 p.m. and then you don't eat, let's start with 12 hours and then gradually increase it to 14 to 15. The research says between 13 and 16 hours is the physiological benefit. So you can't go from never fasting to having somebody do that amount of time. And I don't think you need to intermittent fast every day, because you want to stress out the cells is really the whole purpose of it. So, 3-4 times a week of 13, 14, 15 hours, 16 hours you can. But yes, you're right about the foods that are safest for you, the meal sizes, the timing, right?
Exactly. And I love that you're pointing out that with intermittent fasting, I mean, this is the key with when we know we've been under stress and we know we're burned out. We don't, like you're saying, this concept of hormesis, I'm sure you've shared with the group, is that we want to create some change, right? If you've been having a 12-hour overnight fast and you go to 13 hours, your body's going to notice that there's an hour difference. And that little bit of a change can have a beneficial effect, can help your body start doing all the good things we want it to do, like autophagy, to help clean out the cellular debris. But if you were to jump from a 12-hour overnight fast to all the way to 16 or 18, now that's too big of a stress on your system. So now it might raise your cortisol levels and it might backfire. You might be actually feeling worse from doing that. And so it's really, yes, this idea of using hormesis, which is making small changes, just enough so that your body can benefit from it, but not too big of a change that it ends up causing more stress. And I think, intermittent fasting is a perfect example of that, but we can use that in all different areas. And this is why in the book, I really encourage you to take these small steps, especially when you've been stressed. We got to help your body heal very gradually, so that we don't make it worse. And so yes, and then the A in CARE is for adequate sleep. So we need
very important,
right? Yep. It's like, believe me, for many years I was the person who thought, oh, I have too many other things to get done. I don't need to sleep. I don't have time to sleep. And the thing is, in the research, and I wrote a book on sleep as well, Natural Insomnia Solutions, and it really showed me that so much good stuff happens while we're sleeping. So it's not like we're doing nothing while we're sleeping. We're actually having our lymphatic system clean out our brain. We're having our cells go into repair, our immune system, our hormones all have a chance to come into balance. There's just so much, and our digestion needs a break. Our digestion needs us to go to sleep and not eat overnight. So we we need those hours of sleep. So, and if someone's struggling with sleep, then there's ways we can figure that out. There's testing we can do. We can solve that and get you sleeping well again, because the sleep is so important for your healing.
Absolutely. Next.
Next is the R. R is for recovery activities. And to some degree, I call this activities that reduce stress, but I tend to like to call it recovery activities, because to me, it's like we want to choose, we always want to acknowledge that it's not just about trying to be stress-free, right? A lot of times when people hear about stress, they think, oh, I'm supposed, am I supposed to be having zero stress? No, that's not the goal.
I don't know how anybody could ever have zero stress in today's society. I mean, going to the health food store or driving or watching news, I mean, it's just talking to somebody. It's just not possible to have zero stress. Let's just acknowledge that.
And you just stress yourself out trying to have zero stress because it's impossible. As humans, we're going to have stress. Yeah. So we want to go, okay, acknowledge and embrace the fact that we're going to have stress, and we're also going to have a stress response. That's just part of living in a human body. So then what we need to do is figure out, how do we support ourselves? How do we counterbalance the stress with anti-stress? And so this R is really about how to give yourself the anti-stress on a daily basis, even on an hourly basis. And this could be, in the book, I talk about all different research on all different recovery activities, everything from just having some moments of silence, to taking deep breaths, to taking a walk in nature, to meditation, guided imagery, prayer, journaling. And it's not that you have to do all of them. It's more a matter of go with what you're drawn to, what you're passionate about, what feels good to you, and see then if you notice right now, like how much are you getting some recovery activities in your day? If you feel like it's not happening as much as you'd like it to be, then let's look at your schedule and see how we can start to integrate it, again, with small incremental steps. So you might start with 2 minutes of say biofeedback or meditation, and you're just going to gradually bring it in so that it integrates into your daily schedule. We don't want this to be another extra thing on your to-do list that stresses you out. We want this to be, right?
Excuse me, I'm stressed out. I got to go meditate. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but so many times people feel like, how am I supposed to fit this on my to-do list? Because I have so many other things to do. And so it's like, let's make this the foundation. And it takes practice, because also, I think you and I spoke about this one time before too, is that sometimes it's hard for us to prioritize ourselves. We have so many other people who, and responsibilities and people who need us. And we're so much more likely to take care of everyone else than ourselves.
It's a problem for women with breast cancer. Everybody else comes first, and they come last, and then they're too exhausted, and their self-care goes out the window. And I think, when I was little, and I remember being on a plane, and they go, put the mask on yourself first before you put it on your kids. And I never understood that until I realized that if you don't have a mask on, you can't help anybody else. So it's sort of like self-care is like putting on your mask so you can breathe. And it is that much of a critical response. But in addition to all the self-care, I like that you talked about some herbs. I use herbs a lot. The beauty and the power of herbal medicine, botanical medicine, as you were into pharmacy, but we studied pharmacy in school, and it's not complicated to use our herbal medicine, botanical medicine, to help women restore their adrenal support, their adrenal glands. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, let's definitely talk about that. The E in C.A.R.E, by the way, is for exercise, and I'm sure you also, encourage everyone to get in movement and exercise. And it's, again, important to go at your pace. Pick the type of exercise that's going to work best for you, and the time of day that works best for you. And don't feel like you have to go running a marathon right out of the gates. Start with 5 minutes. Start with some stretching. Go simple. And that's how your body.
The 5-minute thing is very important, because I worked with a woman who came to see me. She had what I call the couch potato syndrome.
Yeah.
And what that is when you don't feel well, you can't get off the couch. And it gets into this vicious cycle. And in order to feel better, you need to get off the couch. So you have to begin to put some energy into the person and change some things before they can get off the couch. And then you start with 5 minutes. Now, this is where the brain can either mess you up or your mind can go, great job. So you can do the 5 minutes and you can go, ugh, 5 minutes, it wasn't worth it. I'm in horrible shape. I'm not even going to keep going. Or you can say 5 minutes, that's fantastic. I've been on the couch for a year and a half. 5 minutes is great. And tomorrow I'm going to do 7 minutes. And at the end of the month, that 7 minutes turns into 25. And at the end of a year, this one woman biked 25 miles a day for 4 days in a row to raise money for breast cancer. So we start with 5 minutes.
It gives me goosebumps. And it's so important because we're going to, as you said, we're going to transition into understanding the use of herbs for the adrenal glands to heal. And part of this is knowing where you're starting from. You know, there's well, let me say it this way. In my stress recovery protocol, I've identified 3 phases. So we're starting in phase 1, which in phase 1, that you're at what I call you're in stress mode. You're in this place where the cortisol and adrenaline are out of balance. We can also test that, by the way, right? So we can measure your cortisol levels. We can measure at different times of day, morning, noon, and night. We can measure your adrenaline levels. So we can see exactly where you're starting from. Are you starting with high cortisol or low cortisol at different times of day? Are you starting with high or low adrenaline? And so now we can really get specific about your stress recovery because the herbs differ, right? If someone has high cortisol, we're going to use different herbs and nutrients to bring it down than if someone has low cortisol. It's completely different herbs and nutrients. And so I always recommend, if possible, to test. Now, in the book, in the Master Your Stress book, I have an assessment where you can go through and answer the questions to get a sense of which stress type you are. There's 5 stress types that have both high cortisol and high adrenaline, or both low cortisol, low adrenaline, or some combination of the 2. And once you know your stress type, then you know not only you can implement C.A.R.E that we were just talking about in a way that matches for your stress type, but you can also use the herbs and nutrients that match for your stress type. So say if cortisol is too high, we might use herbs like ashwagandha or banaba leaf or magnolia and the nutrient phosphatidylserine. The research shows helps reset and bring the cortisol down when it's too high. It's not going to bring it to 0, which we wouldn't want anyway, but it's just going to help bring it back to optimal range. And that's part of phase 1 is bringing any high levels, high adrenaline, high cortisol down to more optimal. We're turning off the stress mode. And then in phase 2, now we can rebalance. If the cortisol is too low at certain times of day, we can use different herbs like rhodiola and licorice and holy basil and so many other beautiful herbs that help bring cortisol up, help the adrenal glands to recover and start working better again. So we can use those. We can also, if we need to, rebalance blood sugar levels, any thyroid hormone, anything else that got out of balance, digestion, because ultimately the stress, caused all this imbalance. We got to get it back in balance. And then phase 3 is what I call resilience or resiliency. That's where it's about how do we maintain over time. Once we get your cortisol and adrenaline to optimal and we rebalance all your systems, then the goal becomes, let's keep it that way. How do we use the C.A.R.E and any nutrients or herbs that help your body maintain? Because the stress is still going to come. We're still going to have stress exposure. We need to be able to bounce back and maintain our health, even though we're exposed to stress.
Absolutely. So, do we do the C.A.R.E? Yes, we did C.A.R.E. We did the 3 phases, and it takes a while, right? It's not like you're in phase 1 for a week. You could be in phase 1 for 2 months.
Yes, exactly. And you want to just you're going to know, like I always love when I'm checking in with patients and I can tell when they're like, oh, my anxiety's less. I'm sleeping better. I feel more myself. the stress mode is turning off. Like it's almost like a dimmer switch. The dimmer switch is turning off, and you're like, okay, I feel more balanced. But then sometimes you still feel tired, or digestion might need some more help. So we'll start rebalancing. We can help with the fatigue. So this is over probably 4 to 6 months or even 12 months, and
Yeah.
there's no race. It's a matter of we're matching your pace. How do we match your recovery pace? We're not trying to aim for perfection, or right, because then that just stresses us more. The key is, how do you heal from stress without stressing yourself more?
I always say that healing takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
Women say, and in our society, the messaging is, you have a problem. First of all, you don't take care of yourself before you get a problem, but you have a problem, you take a pill, and then in a couple weeks, you're better. And that's not how natural medicine works, because it's not about taking a pill to cover the symptoms. It's about going deeper and creating balance in your body. And so it takes as long as it takes, right?
Mm-hmm. In the book, we talk about emotional healing, because sometimes as you're going through this process of your adrenals recovering, sometimes we're needing to do emotional healing and spiritual balancing as well. And I love to be able to integrate all of that, right? Because now you're really getting to know yourself, process past triggers, and be able to walk forward on this path, as your true self in this moment in time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did it take you? You want to talk a little bit about your personal recovery experience?
Sure, of course. Sure. And let me know too, in terms of timing, if you
fine.
Okay.
We have whatever. It goes as long as it goes. It
Okay,
takes
good.
as it takes. The community loves hearing from you, and so we'll talk about whatever. We can do another 10 minutes if you want.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I've been in so much of a healing experience my whole life. And in some ways, right, it's maybe is that our whole lives, as we're living our lives, we're also learning how to heal ourselves. And I joke, we don't come with an instruction manual, and we also can't go to the body store and get another body, right? This is our body, this is our life experience. And ultimately, what we experience in our health comes down to, well, we used to think that most of it was genetics, right? That's why they ran the Human Genome Project, and we tried to identify a gene for every disease. And what we ended up finding is that genetics plays a role, but it's not anywhere near 100% of the determinant. And so we can look at the genetics, but when I look at genetics, then I use that more a matter of helping me then know where to give even more support for the person, so that those genetics can be addressed and prevented. But really, most of our health is determined by our environment, which is what I refer to as our stress exposure, right? So almost like a math equation, if you were to look at what's determining our health, it's some percentage, a small percentage, probably less than 20%, is our genetics. And the rest of it is our stress exposure in terms of psycho-emotional stress, toxins, dietary stresses, physical stresses, infections. So that's where we have the most potential to create change, if we can understand and minimize the stress exposure, but then help our bodies to recover from the stress we are exposed to. And so when I learned this over years of being, studying and being in practice, and continuing to read, research, and write about this. And so in my personal process, I went through many phases of this. I think I've been through different stress types over the years, like coming out of naturopathic medical school and training to be a midwife. Because when I was training to be a midwife, I was many times up all night delivering a baby. So
I remember that. Yeah, I remember doing, OBGYN at NCNM, being up all night for days. And I said to my dear friends, my adrenal glands cannot handle this. And I realized, as much as I loved women's health and wanted to deliver babies at home, it was just not my path. You have to. And then, the delivery itself is like pushing on your adrenal glands. So everything's fine. And it's like, okay, I can't do this.
It's a lot. And so by the time I finished that training, I was my cortisol and adrenaline were completely at the lowest possible level. And when I finally measured them, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to start working on this. And it really, motivated me. Now, about that same time, I had my daughter. Now my daughter's 19 years old, but at the time I had my daughter, and so then I was up all night with her, like, because
You
when we
didn't
have
sleep for years. You just sleep was like this luxury that just didn't happen in your life. That's, that's not okay in the long run.
It's exactly. So it's like, then I was like, okay, how am I going to recover from medical school while I take care of my daughter and take care of my patients? And so I was just in such a state of stress all the time that, again, it really pushed me to learn more. How do I help my cortisol come back to a healthy level? How do I get some sleep? How do I rebalance my neurotransmitters? And it really pushed me to figure this out. But meanwhile, I was also getting these migraines. So
I wonder why you were getting migraines. It's like,
I know,
duh.
right?
Like,
One day I was in the middle of a migraine, and because when I had a migraine, I couldn't see patients. I couldn't do anything. I just had to lay in bed or on the bathroom floor for 24 hours. And I realized, oh my gosh, the migraines are telling me I need a break. I
yeah.
need to have breaks. And I find, because I was working sometimes 7 days a week. I know it's not a good idea. I'm telling you, it's not a good idea. So I finally was like, okay, instead of getting a migraine to have a break, I'm going to create breaks. So I encourage all of you to, if you're not already doing this, look in your weekly schedule and make a day for yourself. Make a whole day where you have no appointments, nothing planned. You just get to go with the flow. You get to wake up and do what you want, and
Go
you
with
get
the
to.
flow day.
Ah,
That's what I do. I
I
I don't have any trouble working 6 days a week. I love what I do, but no matter what, I need to go with the flow day. So Sunday is my go with the flow day, right?
is so, I mean, it really made a difference for me because I finally had a day to just like turn off all the other brain activity, and I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time, and I can just, yeah, go with the flow. I love that. And and even if it's hard to imagine starting with a whole day to begin with, maybe just start with a
four
half.
hours, four
Yeah,
hours, 5 hours. Yeah.
start with a little, and then, you know what? Oh my gosh, this past year, now I can hardly even believe I was able to accomplish it, but I was able to create 10 days. When I decided to go to Peru and work with a shaman in Peru, and I didn't have cell service.
Internet, right?
Yes, and I actually was able to create 10 days. And so if some of you who've ever thought that, like, how could you possibly ever create 10 days for yourself where you're just, and it's different. Like, sometimes people go on vacation, but sometimes vacation's more stressful.
Yeah. Getting there and packing and then leaving your life. And, it's just,
And then
yeah.
the food, you're away from your healthy food, and you might be drinking more alcohol, and then you're coming back from vacation thinking, I need another vacation to recover from my vacation. So imagine having a reset where you actually get to like be doing healthy things for your body, sleeping, eating healthy, staying away from technology and all of the stimulation. And it was just so amazing for me to finally be able to create that and realize that it's possible, and what a
Isn't that beautiful?
healing opportunity it is.
Ideally, I think we should do that once a year.
Absolutely. I think so too. Yeah.
That's a good spot to end on. Dr. Doni, thank you so much. I posted that your people sent me 2 copies of this book. So I'm giving one away. The first person to email me at support@thepathofbreastcancer.com, let me know why you would like this book, what you think it can help you with. I will email you back, and I will get your address, and you will be the lucky recipient of this. It's really life-changing. It can help people so much. So
Oh,
thank you for writing it, and thank you for spending time out of your busy day. And I hope you have a Go with the Flow day scheduled soon. That's my new nickname for my Sundays, to Go with the Flow Sunday.
I
And
do tomorrow.
really,
Yes.
thank you for being here. And it's really wonderful to hang out with you and to support your wonderful work. And where's your practice located, Doni?
Well, I live on Long Island, so I'm based in New York, but I work with people all around the world,
I
you know,
know, me
because
too. That's the
we,
beauty of the internet these days. So if anybody wants to reach you, how can they reach you? I'll put it in the post
Mhm.
here. What's your,
well, my
yeah.
oh, which is best. My website is at drdoni.com. So DOCTORDONI. Donnie is short for Donielle, but it just goes drdoni.com.
Mhm.
And by the way, the book is available everywhere you would usually order a book, like Amazon. But when you order the book, definitely come and to my website and tell me that you ordered it, because then I can give you all kinds of support and gifts to go along with the book. I really want to help you understand it and utilize it. And so when you come to, you want me to type in here? I don't know if I can
No,
type
I'm
if you.
doing it. Go to
So
Dr. Don's website so
it's
she can reach out to you.
so it's drdoni.com. So
TOR,
DOCTORDONI.
yeah.
But then you go .com and then / MSRH. It's the Master Stress Reset Health. So MSRH is the forward after the / and then you're going to see where you can,
M Master Reset. What are the initials? M.
MSRH.
Okay.
And this way you can tell me you ordered the book, and then I'll send you all kinds of support for that, because I'm so grateful for you for getting it, and I want to be helping you to utilize it.
Mhm.
There you go. Yep, that's it. And yeah, you can also find me on social media as Dr. Doni Wilson, and I'd love to hear from anyone who's wanting to connect. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Donnie, and have a lovely day yourself. And ladies, it's Carol Lourie signing off for now. And for those of you in my Empowered Against Recurrence program, we'll be having our class on Tuesday at the regular time. And this is week number 5, and we're talking about healthy and enjoyable and taking a day off lifestyles. And we'll have more guest speakers for next week also. And thank you again, Dr. Donnie. And I hope everyone has a lovely weekend, and there'll be more later. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.